How you say it?
Calestrino. Yeah.
Calestrino,
Yeah.
okay. And Ron is our new clerk. He will be running our minutes and all that sort of thing for us. So thank you very much. And
Welcome, Ron.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
And we have lots of meetings coming up, so
Okay, good.
you'll be a busy fellow.
Sounds good. Great.
If we can go around the table for a second, introduce yourself for Ron, just so that he knows who everybody is.
Yeah.
Chuck.
Hi, Chuck.
I'm Dennis, Leo.
Megan Rockwell.
Megan.
Greg Rosenblatt.
Sean Kimball, we met. We did the other day.
Rich Gasselberg.
That's great.
Sarah Stevens Morley.
Thank you.
Chris Ed.
Chris.
Good, Master. Yeah, just
I got you. All right.
Okay. So the first thing is the roll call, which we just sort of did, but I'll go ahead and do it anyway. Let's make it formal.
Is that me?
Yeah.
Okay. Chris Daddy.
Here.
Rich Lusenberg.
Here.
Sean Kimball.
Here.
Chuck Neff.
Here.
Dennis, is it Rio?
Leo.
Rio?
Yeah.
Thank you. Megan Rockwell.
Here.
Greg Rosenblatt.
Here.
Jeff Solon.
It's not here.
Sarah Stevens Morley.
Here.
Ben Massiano. Thank you.
As you do the minutes, you'll see on the last one, it wasn't really laid out in the format that I'd like it. It should say committee members present and list those, committee members absent and list those, and then other staff. If you look at the
Okay.
minutes last
Yeah.
time, they're all mixed up together. And all we really care about is making sure we have a quorum for our committee. So if you break that down into those three
Will
pieces.
do.
And then other staff is usually Vin, our attorney. That's basically it. We'll be adding architects and others as we go along.
Okay.
All right. Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is public comments and correspondence. Secretary, do we have any
We
correspondence?
haven't received any correspondence.
All right. Public comments, any? No? Okay. All right. Approval of minutes from February 9th, 2023.
Yeah, just one correction.
Yes.
Last line of paragraph 6 should be TSKP, not PSKP.
Oh, okay. All right, so the last line of number 6 on the agenda, it says PSKP is the name of the architectural firm. It should be TSKP. All right, and I have one other under absent. It says Board of Education Chairman Tony Perugini. He is not a member of this committee. That should be stricken from the minutes. So you got all that?
Yep.
So the way it works is, I don't know that you go back and fix the old ones, you just note
Right. No.
in this one, well, what corrections were made. Any other corrections to the minutes? Did we have a motion to approve as amended? So moved
Second.
and seconded.
Kevin.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Unanimous. All right, Chairman's report. We did receive a number of questions from the architects on the RFP. And Jeff Solon coordinated that with our attorney and responded to those. So hopefully all the architects got that same message. Any questions, any confusion that was out there, those have all been solved and taken care of.
Where are those?
I don't know if I can find him or not. Give me a second. If Jeff were here, he could put his
He's
hand
not
on
that
it.
good with Google Drive.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
But it is in the, I
Well, they
thought I
gotta
saw
be
them
they're
in.
posted on the,
They should be
website.
posted on there.
as addendum. Well, maybe not. I don't know if they're posted actually.
The addendum on the town's website?
Yeah.
Any addendum submitted to us are there.
It's just that this isn't a typical RFP, right? The RFQ was issued public, but RFP was limited just to those 4 architects.
Yeah, it's not a formal one though. Yeah.
So I think those were responded to and forwarded to each of the architectural firms.
To all of them.
All of them,
Also,
yeah.
I'm having issues, because I'm not that good at Google Drive.
It's almost easier to go through it for the town
The
website.
questions.
I find, I go to the
of
town
four
website, just get
architectural
those.
firms.
Yeah, not everything is there
It
though.
won't be this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Limited
limited.
our questions that were answered were just.
Just get them on the shared drive under RFP.
Who do we request for a new invite? Because if not everything is on, I'm having trouble getting to it via the link, the invite that was sent a while ago.
Just now that you left.
I'll let Jeff know, because I know he's been sending out the invites.
Every time I click on that first one.
Here, architect RFP addendum items, okay. Ah, see? Make fun of me. So let's go through these.
Which one would you end up being?
Oh, come on, John. I don't know, it was
Oh,
just,
found your
it just suddenly popped up and I said, oh my God, I found it.
It's under the RFP resources, and then there's a subfolder that's architect at
Thank
the
you.
top.
The presumption is that the design phases will run concurrently. Please
See that,
confirm.
Chuck?
Presumption is correct. The plan calls
At the
for
architect RFP folder, but what files?
Yeah.
Architect RFP. Addendum.
Yeah, you're right. I don't see.
I see an addendum in the RFQ.
No, no.
That's what I was.
Yeah, I see that. I see some RFQ stuff in the RFP.
RFP.
Yeah, architect
You're
RFP.
right.
addendum.
You're right. I take it back, Chuck. I mean, that's not. That's where it should be, but I don't see it.
But
Well,
that's
if
not
you-
where it is.
So if you click on the architect RFP addendum questions, is that the right document?
Yeah, this
If you
one.
click on it,
Yeah.
I think
You
it will
get
show
this.
you the, oh, it just
You
opened
get
there,
this, yeah. But it doesn't show
the path.
the path.
Oh, that's only when you're in folder view.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to do this. You'll have to find it later. We'll run through it together. Is it the intent of the committee to hire one CMR for both projects? We'll make that decision during the CM procurement process. Do you anticipate both projects being bid at the same time as part of a bid, single bid package or separate bid packages? Similar to question one above, would be consideration given to hiring the same subcontractor for major trades. The NGSBC expects both projects to be bid in close proximity to each other in order to meet the goal that both schools will be fully ready for occupancy by our students in August of 2026 for the 2026-27 school year. Each project will and must have separate bid packages as they are separate projects pursuant to 10-287. Trade contracts must be awarded to the lowest responsible qualified bidders for each trade package. Note, we fully recognize each project will have a separate state project number, and as such, the selected design firm will be required to participate in the OSCG&R review and approval process for each project. With that said, do you anticipate holding progress and review updates at the same building committee meeting? Will there be similar school district leadership involved for both projects? The single building committee is charged with both projects, and while we do anticipate holding progress review and update meetings at the same meeting, we recognize that based on circumstances that may change at times, similar school district leadership will be involved for both projects. Do you anticipate the implementation of existing or new standards across both schools? For example, similar mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems where possible and as allowed under Connecticut state bidding procedures. We are hiring a qualified A&E team to make recommendations based on its expertise. While we anticipate similar mechanical, electrical, plumbing, furniture, and fixture, technology, and even interior finish selection for both schools being constructed, The NGSBC requires the input of the design team on such issues. As per the educational specification, each will have its own unique problematic requirements. However, has the committee given any consideration to standardizing similar spaces found in both projects? In other words, typical classroom layout and content, gymnasium space, food service and cafeteria, specialized education where appropriate, media centers, learning commons, administration, etc. In response, the committee has not discussed that level of detail yet, but is certainly open for such discussion as the design phase progresses. Next set of questions, RFP Norton and North End. Page 2, last paragraph of Part 2, scope of services requires the architect to attend and present project updates and scheduled meetings of the NGSBC and other town boards, commissions, and town council. Please provide the expected meeting cadence for the NGSBC, scheduled meetings during design and construction phases, as well as the anticipated number of board, commission, and town council meetings to include in our proposal. Also clarify if attendance for such meetings will be in person, all virtual, or some combination of in-person and virtual. At this time, we would expect the committee meetings to be in person bi-weekly with the understanding that due to the press and our volume of business, committee meetings may need to occur on a weekly basis for a period of time. Both schools will be covered in the same NGSBC meetings. The number of board, commission, and town council meetings is expected to be typical of new construction projects of this size and scope and in person. Page 3, third bullet, please clarify the expected scope for special inspections. The architect typically prepares the statement of special inspections as part of the construction documents package within basic services. It's expected that on-site inspections of the work will be performed by the owners, third-party testing and inspection vendor in accordance with the statements of special inspections. Some owners also hire a third party to administer the special inspections program to perform review of testing reports, acknowledging passing or failing results, and take point on follow-through and periodic reporting to the building official's office as required by the statement of special inspections. Some owners will hire the architect engineer of record to perform the special inspections administration as an additional service. Should the architect carry the special inspections program administration costs within their proposals? The architect should not carry the special inspections consultant in the proposal. The town will contract directly for special inspections. Page 3, fourth bullet, septic system evaluation and design is indicated. Please indicate if either site has an existing septic system to be evaluated. There are no septic systems of either location. The RFPs require the civil scope to analyze and design septic systems if necessary. The town GIS shows public sewer is available at both sites. Are there known capacity issues within the existing sewer that would prevent connection of new flows into them? The new Norton School was built on the site of an existing school which has sewer connectivity that will need to be extended as needed. The new North End School will be built on an undeveloped site, and the budget includes funding to connect to the town sewage system. Will the septic system need to be designed and permitted for either of the school sites? We will not need to design septic for either school unless some unknown circumstance occurred which would prevent us from using the town's sewage system. Page 3, fifth bullet. Will the NGSBC consider establishing an allowance for the OSTA certification application process in the event it becomes necessary? We don't anticipate a major traffic generator certificate for the Norton site, as the proposed building size and number of anticipated parking spaces is expected to stay below the 100,000 square foot and 200 space threshold. At North End, the building site will be over the 100,000 square foot threshold, but may or may not exceed the 200 parking space threshold, which is indeterminate at this time. The following link will provide insight on the distinction between administrative decision and MTG certification. It says yes, the NGSBC will consider establishing an allowance for the OSTA certification application process in the event that it becomes necessary. We recommend basic services, traffic engineering, include traffic counts, analysis study, and on-site traffic design with an OSTA application for administrative decisions. Please confirm this is the level of service the NGSBC would like prospectors to include. That's confirmed. Okay. We recommend establishing an allowance for OSTA MTG certification application or procuring those services as an additional service should they become necessary. If the OSTA certification application process is determined to be necessary, the NGSBC will work with the design team to establish an allowance or an amendment to the owner-architect contract for the additional services. Page 3, 14th bullet. Please clarify the NGSBC expectations for alternative energy system design. Is this related to on-site generation, in other words, solar panels, or ground-coupled, aka geothermal, heating, cooling plants? Each school has a $1 million line item in the budget for energy efficiency enhancements beyond what is required to meet building code and the Connecticut High Energy Performance Standards. These enhancements could be used for PV, geothermal, battery arrays, or whatever makes sense based on site conditions and school design. Guidance and design is expected to be provided by the selected architectural firm to meet the expectation. Page 4, site visits. The RFP document indicates the choice of 2 Connecticut school projects should be submitted with our submission for the NGSBC to select from for a site visit. We have been coordinating with Mr. Gussenberg separately via email to identify and schedule site visits at 2 schools. Please confirm that it is acceptable to make site visit arrangements separately through the NGSBC chair, and that suggested site visit options required by Part 5 of the RFP can be omitted from RFP submission. This is confirmed. We removed question 7. It was a duplicate. The non-collusion affidavit and affirmative action statements are required with the RFP response. It is acceptable for us to include copies of these documents as submitted with the RFQ response. Yes, it is acceptable to use the same affidavit and statement as long as there have been no changes since the submission of same. Is there swing space available in the district to permit housing the Norton students elsewhere during construction? No, the expectation is that students will remain at the current Norton Elementary School until the new school is built. There will be separate construction entrance for the new school so as not to interfere with the existing school in any way. Are the portables currently part of Norton fully utilized? Yes, they are both being used for students during the school year. Exhibit A, proposal form. Please clarify the scope for move management as listed on Exhibit A. Is this related to moving existing equipment and small wares from existing schools to the new schools? If so, given the uncertainty of scope, in other words, which schools and what items, would the NGSBC consider establishing an allowance for this work to level the playing field for proposers? If no to an allowance, please provide more information related to scope on which to base our proposal. TBD by Mr. D'Onofrio, the scope of service for move management is typical and may include providing assistance in all aspects of planning, scheduling, coordinating, and execution of the physical relocation of personnel, faculty, staff, FF&E, development of a move plan for the moves, coordination of details and planning aspects of the move from the existing to new schools, manage and oversee movers on the day of the scheduled moves as necessary, ensure new FF&E is properly delivered and accounted for, assist the owner in developing a detailed implementation schedule, project budget, and communication plan, coordinate with the FF&E vendors. hope I'm nearing the end. Make recommendations with respect to existing FF&E and assist with inventory of same. Coordinate and supervise all aspects of interior workshop, setup, tear down, move, relocation, equipment, and furniture requests as needed. Work and coordinate with FF&E installers. Schedule and facilitate pre-move meetings with various stakeholders. Work and assist Cheshire School District purchasing and other district personnel with the procurement process of actual moving services, in other words, supplies and transportation, to ensure proper and adequate resources are provided to ensure a smooth move. Implementation, administration of the move plan, move administration, including pre-move conferencing, approval of vendor contract plans, pricing and schedules, facilitation of team and project staff meetings, track projects, expenditures against budget, review and verify contractor vendor requests for payment. The NGSBC has not decided whether the A&E firm engaged for each project will be awarded the move management scope. It is acceptable for the respondents to propose an allowance not to exceed number that will be billed against the foregoing scope if awarded. Would the NGSBC like to have separate breakout values for FF&E design, procurement, and installation coordination and technology equipment design on Exhibit A? We would recommend this since these services typically occur later in the process during building construction, and payment for these services should occur when the services are provided. Technology equipment design is separate from technology infrastructure design that is performed during building design. Yes, a breakout is appropriate and appreciated. Draft contract 1.1, bottom of first paragraph. Connecticut School Safety Infrastructure Council has been repealed in Public Act 22-118, and the responsibility for the school safety infrastructure criteria to the School Building Projects Advisory Council. The town may consider updating the contract to reflect this change. Response: despite what appears on the webpage for which the link was provided, Section 363 of PA 22-118 provides otherwise. The contract as originally drafted states as amended to avoid any ambiguity. By Section 363 of PA 22-118 has been added following as amended. 1-1-1, third sentence, item 3. The highest prevailing applicable professional or industry standards. This term is not insurable by most insurance carriers. We recognize it is tied to the state law. However, the term has still never been tested. We suggest changing it to standard of care of similar firms on similar projects in the state of Connecticut. Response: the cited language is verbatim from CGS 10-290E. The same statute provides that any town or regional school district that fails to adhere to the provisions of this section for a project for which the town or district receives state assistance pursuant to this chapter shall be assessed a 10% reduction in the amount of its grant approved pursuant to this chapter upon completion of an audit pursuant to Section 10-287. Thus, changing the standard of care is not an option. 2-1-2, recommend modifying the last sentence as follows. Time limits established by the construction manager's schedule approved by the owner and architect shall not, except for reasonable cause, be exceeded by the architect or the owner. Response: rejected. The architect will not be in privity with the CM. 2.2.1, last sentence. Please clarify what grant opportunities the owner anticipates pursuing. Also clarify this in the context of RFQ Section 3, Part B.2, regarding Connecticut Clean Energy / Green Energy or other available funding source applications. Response: in addition to the state of Connecticut school construction grants administered by the OSCGR, the town anticipates pursuing other applicable and available grants to the extent that the projects are eligible for same. Energy efficiency and sustainability grants are examples of potential grant opportunities. The NGSBC requires the expertise and experience of the design team in identifying the full range of potential grant opportunities. 2.2.6 indicates the construction manager will prepare a cost estimate. Response, yes, this is a reference to the final pre-bid cost estimate. 6.2.2 indicates the construction manager in collaboration with the architect will prepare the budget for each phase. In the RFQ section 3, parts A-2 and B-3 indicate the architect is responsible for providing cost estimates during the design phases. Please confirm that the architect is responsible for providing detailed cost estimates in addition to the detailed cost estimates to be provided by the construction manager, which will be reconciled at each design phase, and also confirm the quantity of estimates to be provided by the architect. Confirm the expectation is that the architect will provide a cost estimate at the completion of SD, a cost estimate at the completion of DD, a cost estimate at 50% CD completion, and a cost estimate at 100% CDs. The architect's cost estimates will be reconciled with the CM's cost estimate at each design phase end. 2.6.11 indicates that the cost of prints for record drawings are chargeable against the architect's allowance for reimbursables. Are the required prints identified in 2.2.5, 2.3.1, and 2.4.6 of the contract, and RFQ section 3, parts B.3 and B.5 chargeable against the architect's allowance for reimbursables? If not, please clarify what printing shall be a direct cost to the architect and what printing are chargeable against a reimbursable allowance. There appear to be inconsistencies between blah, blah, blah related to a reimbursable allowance or all expenses as direct to the architect. Please clarify how expenses should be included in our proposal. Response, yes, the required prints are chargeable against the architect's allowance for reimbursables. 2.6.13, with a construction manager as constructor, CMC, relationship, the construction manager is typically responsible for conducting and documenting pre-bid, pre-construction, and scope review meetings with subcontractors with architect participation. Since these meetings are scheduled and conducted by the CM should be responsible for preparing minutes. Will this article be modified accordingly? Yes, this edit is acceptable. 6.6.1, the town might consider including the following components of a typical construction budget in the definition of construction cost: trade cost, design contingency, estimating contingency, general conditions, general requirements, construction manager, GMP, contingency, escalation, bonds, permit fees, state education fee, and applicable insurances. Note that design and estimating contingency values carried an estimate for early design phase, SD and DD, are rolled up into the trade costs for the CD estimate since the design is complete and fully documented by the end of CDs. Response, unclear what section is being referred to. 9.1, indemnification. This paragraph is not insurable as written and should be modified to address claims that are covered by professional liability insurance, which do not require the architect to defend the owner. The insurer will not defend the owner related to professional liability claims. Response, modified to eliminate duty to defend for both parties. 10.12, owner's sole discretion for arbitration. We would like to see the language changed to be mutual agreement to arbitration, or it goes to litigation, rejected. Next set of questions. I'm going to lose my voice here. Hope you don't mind reading this through, but it's a lot of valuable stuff here.
You don't mind reading.
And this wasn't completed until I think late Sunday. So it's, it was a last minute. Jeff was working a good part of the weekend on it. The two Jeffs going back and forth. I was just on the sideline watching. The RFP mentions one of the civil engineering scope items is septic evaluation design if necessary. Cheshire GIS mapping indicates public sewer is available at both sites. Are there any known issues that would not allow connection to the existing sewer infrastructure? The new Norton School we built on the site of an existing school which has sewer connectivity that will need to be extended as needed. The new North End School will be built on an undeveloped site, and the budget include funding to connect to the town sewage system. We will not need to design septic systems for either school unless some unknown circumstance occurs, which would prevent us from using the town sewage system. That's really duplicate. Could you please confirm the time and location for submitting our proposal on February 26th? I won't read that through, but it's today at 4 o'clock, or yesterday at 4 o'clock. What is the anticipated scope of work for the move management service listed on the fee proposal forms? That was answered above. Upon further review on the Norton and North End Elementary School sites, the team is wondering if it is possible to get any of the studies done previously on the site. The traffic study, environmental phase 1 study, site survey study, and other supporting studies previously done, and they give a connection. And that's it.
Yeah, very good.
Let me ask you a question on things like this. Now normally, we're taking this stuff, we're putting it into a Google Doc, and there's an expectation that people are gonna, go on to Google and see it. In other committees that I've dealt with, we haven't used Google. Instead, what we have done is put together an agenda, and one of two things. We've either sent you an email with all the backup, or we've printed it out and sent it out to people ahead of time. What is the Google process working fine for you? Would you like things like this to be sent as emails, backups for the agenda, so you have a chance to take a look at it ahead of time? What is your?
An email reminder would be helpful, because I always check my email, but I don't always check Google Docs.
Yeah,
If you send an email and it's in the Google Drive or whatever, it would just be good to have the email to tell you where to go in the
Right.
drive.
I can even put,
You just put the link in there.
if I can put, I can even put the link in there so that you've got the agenda. You can just click on it and you can go. Now, this came in after the agenda, so it would have to get sent out after the fact. But just so that you have a chance to see all of the backup information as it's coming through.
I think right now, since there's so many documents, this would be helpful to just help us channel our
I agree.
energy.
So we're on cruise control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, more is better.
When are we going to be on cruise control?
2025.
Okay, there we go, yeah. The
2026.
day that the building is closed. All right, so I will try as I can in the future, as any documents come up that you need for our meetings, to include those either with the agenda or as a follow-up with a link, as much as I can do, okay?
Thank you.
That was on my list.
Rich, just if I
Yes.
may, one suggestion on that, since the meeting's gonna start getting more regular, there could be a folder set up in Google for each meeting, so if you ever wanna go back and look at, what did we do at the
Here's
meeting
all
of
the
February
backup for that
23rd?
particular-
You would see the agenda, all the documents that were distributed, right? Because we're gonna talk about invoices,
Right.
those are gonna be part of the package, so.
Exactly. And like even, for this meeting, talk about invoices, I sent that out as a separate, to have all that in a single folder that people could even check the morning of the meeting or something.
So we could work that through with Jeff, and myself, and you, so that we get it
I don't know
organized.
if I have rights to all of these folders. Jeff Sullivan sent all those, set all this up, so we may have to go in and take a look at that. Okay. Any other discussion on this? Okay, and we are done with item 5. Financial procedures and invoices. I had sent you, this came up as a conversation that I had initially with Jeff Solon and then with Vince. He had also mentioned Sean in the conversation, which is why it also says on here payment for video cable, but we don't have. How do we do it?
Yeah, I just got it today, so
Okay.
I brought hard copies
All right.
for tonight.
Because I hadn't seen this one before.
Okay. I can just figure this out. Thanks.
So the first thing, and you should each time, if you don't want to deal with this one that just came to you, that's fine. You should get any invoices ahead of time that you can take a look at them, make sure that you're prepared. The first set of invoices that we had were from the business department, the school's business department. They have been posting the RFQ and RFP ads in the paper. It comes at this point to a total of $2,019.94.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second, yeah.
Our first payment.
There you go. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, and we have approved 2019-94 with more to come, I'm sure.
Well, there's just two more for the ads for now, the ones that we're running Monday.
For now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the architect ones will be big. These are not.
I gather it's a
This is
standard
practice.
price per line or per inch of
Yeah,
text.
that's how they bill us.
You want a motion for this one?
If you feel comfortable doing that.
Absolutely.
So the other piece is we have a payment that we need to make for someone to come in and do the videotaping of our regular meetings to make those available online. And it has been moved. Has it been seconded? Seconded for $870.
It's actually not.
$230.
Oh, you guys got what the difference
Oh.
between the two prices are.
Yeah, if you look at this,
So, all right, so I'm
on page two,
confused.
if you look on, well, there's,
It's just
it's one page, but on page
So what's
two,
the 870?
That's
So
the rest
that's
of
the
the bill.
total. Oh, that's
Town council
the-
meetings.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah,
ours
we're
is
not
the
paying for the
230
town
now.
council meeting.
I mean,
We're
you're
only
welcome.
We're only doing these two,
Call there.
12/5 and 12/19.
Ah, okay.
so this was the invoice for the month of December.
All
There
right,
were
so
two
this will
meetings
just
of
cover
the
us through December.
school building committee. It's 115 per meeting. That's the rate.
All right, so motion of, to approve $230, that's even, 230 even, for the cost of videotaping. It's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. You will be seeing lots more of these as we move ahead.
So do these come out of the actual budget for the school, or is this just town business?
No, that's, we wouldn't be voting on anything that comes out of the town's budget. Anything we vote on is coming out of our
Project budget.
Our project budget.
Coffers.
Sure.
No.
Counting in my head.
Yeah, no, so take 166 million and start subtracting.
We're getting close, I'm getting there.
So, they'll be coming hot and heavy, and there'll be a lot bigger ones coming along. All righty. Report on site visits and reference checks. First, let me just start off if I can. I know that some of us have been doing some reference checks, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want to go into any real detail right now, but I'd like to know how that process is coming along. Dennis?
Yeah, I did 3 for Pecon. And that's all I'm gonna say public.
Okay, that's all right. So those are complete, though.
Those
You've
are
had
complete.
you've had the opportunity to talk to 3.
Yep.
Were they all chairman of committees? or-
All chairman of committees.
Okay,
One person, I said, hello, I'm going on behalf of Cheshire Exeter Registered School Building Committee. That's the only thing I said. They talked for 40 minutes.
yeah, you get a variety of people, so they're different. Right?
Yes, spoke to 3. 2 were school building commission chairpersons. 1 was the director of business. And I have 1 more that was on vacation this week. Depending when they get back, I may have a 4th.
Beautiful. Okay, so those will be ready for next week.
Yes.
Sir?
I have spoken with 4 people, but unfortunately only 1 has been a committee chairperson. I've also spoken with the school-wide facilities manager, as well as 2 superintendents. It was easier to get the superintendents on the phone than the chair.
Very good, yeah. I've spoken to 2. You were for which company?
TSKB.
Okay. And
That
you
was
were
JCP.
Jason. Okay. And,
Or JCJ.
JCJ.
That's it, right.
And I was doing SLAM. I've spoken to two, and I have a meeting set up tomorrow morning at 9:30, a phone call. And so those were all committee chairs. So I'll have those three at this point. So we'll go into next week, and we've done that. All right. Any questions on that? Okay. So our site visit so far, I was going to just show a few pictures. And other people I know have taken pictures. Just so that we can get and others, please jump in because the first school that we had, that's not this one. The only person that was involved with that one was Dr. Solon. And obviously he's not here today. He went to the Barack Obama, I forget what it's called, but the Barack Obama School in New Haven. And we'll have to have him come back and tell us a little bit about it. We went yesterday and there were 6 of us, so others feel free to jump in. I'm not going to do any evaluation here in front of everyone, but just to mention, this was Tokenique Elementary School in Darien. It was, how old?
15.
15 years old. So it was a little bit different than what we are seeing in some of the others that are fairly brand new schools. As you can see, it's got kind of a block exterior. Entranceway. An architect with very bright red hair. And the
She's always
entranceway
had
was,
that, by the way.
what's that?
She's always had.
Yes, actually, you've known her. Entranceway, big, open. Some of the other facilities, they said, were undersized or were spec'd to be smaller. For instance, the gym is about a half-size gym. And they said that's what the town wanted because that's what the other elementary schools had. The
So also
cafeteria.
a smaller school than what our schools were.
Right.
It's like 400, I think she said.
450.
450.
150. And the stage is in between the gym and the cafeteria, so it can be opened up on either direction, depending on what you were doing. That's the serving line. And behind that, I didn't bother taking that picture, but behind that was all the kitchen stuff. A typical classroom. And this is the media center, library media center. Okay, so as I said, just a feel there. So I'll stop for a second. If people who visited had other things that they wanted to share. Nothing at this point? Okay. As we interview the architects, we'll want to talk more extensively about the references and about our site visit experiences. The second school that we visit is New Lebanon. Very different kind of setting. You can tell from the exterior, it's kind of an aluminum exterior. There had been a school on a flat site in front of this building. They then had a piece of land that went down pretty sharply and then up, and then the highway was on the other side. And they built the school within that crevice area. It meant that the school itself was kind of undulating in design. So it was different.
Who were the firms for the?
This is
This
That's
is
okay.
TSK
For both.
Yeah,
Okay.
for both of these. And so because it's in that area, you can see there's a bridge that goes across, and you can see where there's classrooms down below. typical classroom. Library Media Center, very open, a lot of glass. When you're on the main floor, you're looking down at the cafeteria, which is on one side. And they made a point of the color there was like a river that was flowing. Anyway, and you're also looking down on the other side at the gymnasium, and you can see there's a screen that can come down and divides the gym in half. Principal walked us through along with the architects.
How old was this school?
This school is fairly new, 2
2019,
years old.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
that's when it's third year.
All right, and then today, this is JCJ. We went up to Birch Grove Primary School. First, let me stop on the one before and see if anyone had any comments or anything they wanted to throw in. Okay.
The one thing that was noticeable is there's not a single straight corridor.
Right, and that, unfortunately, I didn't get a picture of that.
That's
Uh,
hard to think.
as the building kind of undulates, the interior corridors also. So they're not straight. I mean, you don't see a straight corridor in this building. It moves around, so you get a lot of kind of curved walls and things like that.
And that was intentional,
Yeah.
or?
Oh, yeah.
Because
They were
it's
following,
they followed the ravine.
Right, the contour of the rocks.
Yeah,
So it was,
Right, you know, rather than
Consultants
manhandle
rather
the
than
rocks,
architects.
they
It was a
worked
conscious
with that.
design decision on their part to do that they were building it within the ravine, that they were trying to work within that site, and keeping some of the rock ledge and things like that, and do that sort of thing.
but there was a driving force behind it. It wasn't like, let's just make a wiggly corridor.
Right.
That's,
I think they looked and said, gee, we can work with this.
that's
you
cool.
know,
Okay.
to do something
Yeah,
different with
It
this.
seemed like they're very intentional about relating the site to the building. They spoke about that in the first building as well, which I think is great.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And a lot of the rock ledge, and they were talking about, fitting it in within the space.
Again, and given did a lot of the talking on that one too, was like part of the design of the school. So
Mhm.
that was like very beneficial to have his knowledge of like why it was certain ways and everything
Right.
along there.
And I'm
We
sure
didn't have
they'll-
that at the first.
yeah,
one.
they may talk about that when they come in, I'm sure,
Right.
since that's one of their newer schools.
They also talked about how it wound up saving money because you didn't have to blast as much rock, which I thought was really clever.
yeah.
And I thought the highway behind might be an issue, but there is a rock cropping that comes
Mhm.
above, and the principal claimed that there really isn't any noise issue regarding the highway right behind this stuff. Today, Greg and Meg and I went to Birch Grove Primary. This is a JCJ school. There's a classroom with the back of Meg's head. I think I caught all of you at one point or another. This is the main corridor. It's meant to look kind of like a shopping mall. You can see
Or an airport.
or an
That's
airport.
another thing that they said
Okay.
too.
You can see the labels and stuff up above. I didn't get a picture of the gym for some reason. This is actually, do you have?
Yeah, I have some.
This is actually the music room, and it goes up on the stage, and then there's a garage door kind of curtain that runs in the front.
And it's all acoustical paneling. So the
Right.
bottom are the whiteboards that the teacher can write on, but it's all acoustical paneling. So she said she really can't hear the gym. She can't hear the gym class on the other side of that.
So they're using the
Fantastic.
stage as a classroom setting, whereas in many cases,
Good idea.
gym stages sit empty most of the time.
Yeah.
On the other side, in the gym, there's a short piece of the stage and then a couple of stairs that go down. So they said a lot of times, if they have a speaker come in or something like that, they'll work there and not disrupt the music program. And I asked the music teacher, how often is your class disrupted with program? She said, seldom, because almost all the programs that would require the full stage are her programs. So she opens it up for that. But for some reason, I didn't get a copy of that. This is the Library Media Center.
If you look at the ceiling, it's all felt panels, and that's also acoustical. And they used that there, and then again in the cafeteria, and it's like fun. There was like a sense of whimsy and fun. It was felt like a happy place.
Yeah, you're talking the
Yeah, the
vertical ones
the
that are off to
ceiling,
the
the
right.
acoustical.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those are all
they're
different colors.
They're all different color
I didn't really
panels,
catch it well on this
felt
picture,
panels. I got it.
I was gonna ask if those were
They're felt
LEDs.
panels.
So
Yeah,
they're not
thick.
structural in any way?
They're pretty strong. Yeah, it's thick. More like
It's
maybe
not
like if it's a
covering
more
like
it's like
a
a
beam or
board, maybe a felt board. So thick felt.
Yeah, they're below
Yeah.
the beams. They're
They're
not.
below.
They're not the beams
It's
themselves.
just an open flat ceiling.
Yeah.
And the furniture here is all on wheels, can be moved around.
They look good.
This is another part of the Library Media Center. With a little tree.
All the kids looking at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like birch things everywhere because of the name. And,
A typical classroom.
Question, if I may. Are we gonna be putting these photos up on the public site?
We haven't discussed that.
Because you have pictures of little kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we can't put kids up.
Unless you want me to blur them. I have software. I can blur everything if you want.
They have
That's all I
carpet
had.
on the floors in the classrooms.
What's that?
They have carpet on the floor.
Carpet in the classrooms. In most of the room, there's vinyl on a strip that goes in and a strip that goes along the side. And then I'd say 80% of the classroom is carpeted. The hallways, it wasn't a vinyl tile, it was a different kind of tile.
They
she
used
said.
VCT like luxury vinyl tile,
Mhm.
but it was like it's very slip resistant. You can't slip. You couldn't
No, and
slip
she
on
said-
that. I tried to.
And she
like,
said you'd never wax it or anything like that, you just clean it and that's
and
it.
it had kind of like it looked like it had a texture like a carpet, but it was vinyl, but like very like not slippy at all. Very.
And I had a ton more pictures, but I didn't want us to be
So
going through every little thing.
this looks like a very early first or second grader.
This is a pre-K through grade 2 school.
I was just gonna say, what about, did they have carpets in fifth and sixth grade room? That's
They
where
don't
I was
have to,
going.
yeah, it only goes up through second grade.
But they mentioned the floors are heated?
This is in Tolland.
Well, they said they were not heated.
Not heated.
No.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, one thing on this one, the school building commission member went through the whole tour with us.
Oh.
You know,
As did the principal, that's the
right, as
principal
the
there.
principal also.
that's great.
yeah.
So this was a big group,
That's a big
architectural, JCJ brought in, 5 people? And so there were the 5 of them, the 3 of us, the principal and the head of the committee, so it's a big group going through. And we spent a good hour and a half, there was a lot to see. So we can show more pictures down the line, I just wanted to give everybody kind of an update. Clearly, we have 4 more schools, 2 tomorrow, 2 Saturday. So we'll spend a little more time in the coming week taking a look at the different places. And as I said, I assume the architects, when they come in, may talk a little bit about some of the previous work that they've done too. Any comments or questions on that?
So we'll discuss more openly when we're in executive session about what our impressions really were and whether we liked it and what we did or didn't.
I think, yeah, we have an evaluation form and that's part of the evaluation form that we're going to be taking a look at.
Okay.
And next week when we do the interviews and we'll be, part of that evaluation form, we'll be taking a look at the references and also taking a look at the site visits.
Okay, so we'll collectively discuss all of that.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
I apologize if you mentioned this, but was this one that I remember this being referenced in there? It was a renovation.
This is a brand new school.
Wasn't it originally a failed?
It was
It was
failed
a failed
concrete,
concrete
right,
school.
then
Yeah.
So
emergency
then it was
tear down.
built from scratch. It
From
was not
scratch, they used modular classrooms for 2 years.
the entire thing. Was right.
Yeah.
I
You've
couldn't tell
probably
if-
heard of the problems that they had in
Of course, yeah.
Northeast Connecticut.
I just saw they referred to it as a renovation.
Yeah, with concrete.
Yeah, they tore the
so
whole
they
thing,
actually-
like 60 trailers
Yeah.
over the summer.
Got it. Okay.
And so this was done in a real emergency kind of situation. They got a call in March saying, we need to come up with a new school. They said, what are we going to do with the present school? They brought in a bunch of portable classrooms and created a temporary school for a couple of years, knocked down the old building completely, and built a new school from scratch. Got 89% reimbursement from the state because
The complete
because
foundation.
of the foundation issues. So JCJ worked with them, and they were very positive about the speed that they were able to put everything together. But yeah, that was the situation that was up there.
So no part of it was reused.
No, this is absolutely brand new. The old school was just leveled.
Is that wall black? It's dark navy.
Oh, Navy, okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
As I said, we have a lot more pictures, and many of us, took pictures as we were walking through these. If we want, we can put them all together at some point for people to take a look at. And I only picked, a few of all the ones that I had. I didn't want to bog us down too much. Okay. All righty. Architects RFP, you have some reading material. And I'm going to take a minute just to quickly go over the interview process for next week, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chuck to talk a little bit about the evaluation instrument that we'll be using next week. You have seen the emails. We have an executive session on Tuesday with two of our firms, and another executive session on Wednesday. We are providing dinner at both of those. You should have gotten an email today for the Tuesday one, and make your choice and send it to whoever sent it out. I forget.
Yeah, it's Carol Jasinski.
The meeting will start at 5:45, just so that we have a short 15-minute meeting. We have to, by state regulations, have a formal vote to move into executive session. Has to be a 2/3 vote, so hopefully you will all vote for it. Otherwise, we're in trouble. And those interviews are set up so that they run an hour and a half. Each firm is given 60 minutes to come in and present their plans for both schools. We're not doing separate interviews, so they'll come in, do a presentation. You may ask some questions as they're going along. Don't feel you have to hold all the questions back, although we don't want to ask so many that we interrupt their flow and their presentation. But definitely feel free to question them as they go along. And then we have a 30-minute question and answer session when they finish that first hour-long presentation.
What's the order?
The order is,
JCJ.
JCJ.
you have it there?
No, just going from memory.
Oh, okay. Well, let me just quickly pull up the agendas.
It's Tech on JCJ, that's Lamb, that Dyson.
Here's the agenda for 23rd. And we, obviously all of us, Jeff D'Onofrio, Vince, and Tecton is the first one coming in, and then JCJ is the second one. And then
I would expect that they want to get there early to set up, so we should be prepared for that.
I can't get there too early because, they could come in at 4:15, because what we're doing from 5:45 to 6 o'clock is just quick public.
But also between 7:45 and 8.
Yeah, and if that's the case, we may want to move to another space
It's a great
in
point.
between,
We probably do want to have a space reserved so that we can go in.
so that we can, and remember, we're at the Board of Ed building, we're not here. So we're at the Board of Ed's conference room. Dr. Solon has an office there. There's places we can go. That's not a problem. We'll want some time you want some time just to visit the bathroom and stuff, you also want some time for us to converse and compare notes too. And then on Wednesday, 6 o'clock is TSKB, and then 8 o'clock is SLAM.
So there's a question for you.
Yep.
For the actual interviews, I understand that, something comes up and one of us has hey, can you clarify that? I want to ask a quick question. But in that half hour afterwards, where it's question and answer, should we have the same agreed upon questions to ask so that we can compare notes? Or do we want to go in with each one with whatever questions we want? And do we want to have, Chuck has 2 questions and he has 2 questions and she has 2, or are you going to ask all the questions? Or
I'm not going to ask all the questions. No,
Okay.
I think that you should come in. Now, I had given you some suggested questions that our attorney sent. And then Chris, you had sent me some questions that you had. I think each of you should walk in the door with a small number of things that you would really like to push them on. And they should be similar questions that you ask each of the 4. So, you don't want to have 4 totally separate. On the other hand, you do want to leave a little bit of flexibility there to do a follow-up. If you don't get the right answer, you want a little bit more, you want to push. I don't think you should step back and say, okay, well, I asked my question, I'm done. That would be, I think, very stilted. So if you come in like you had showed me a couple of really good questions, if you come in with those questions, you ask that. If you want to do a follow-up or 2, feel free. We're going to have half an hour to go back and forth on these things. Some of those answers will be short. Some of them may take a while.
Might there be some questions responsive to their presentation? After there may be a question not on anybody's list, out in left field, but something in the presentation either irks you or interests you and you want to probe that.
And those are the kind of questions that as they're going along during that hour, you may want to stop them and say, I'm not quite certain about this, or what did you mean by that? That kind of a question. But then when you get to the question answer piece,
It's rather more formal.
Yeah.
Most of the question.
I'm just wondering if, when we ask a question, we want to remind them to be brief, because I could see a half hour like that, with 2 or 3 of us asking a couple questions. Even if we only have 2 questions, whether we elaborate on it or have a follow-up, or whether they go into a big, long explanation about, let me tell you about this, you can eat that up. And I just don't want to eat up time where, Dennis doesn't get his questions, or you don't get to yours. So that's the reason I was asking.
I think that'll be up to us to make sure that we ask questions that are clear, and that if they're going on too long, one of us probably may, shuts off the answer. And stuff.
Mine are yes or no answers.
You don't know the answer, you just keep talking, and hopefully forget what the question was.
Yeah, I'm thinking like if one person goes over 5 minutes, the math doesn't work.
Yeah.
So,
Well, also remember, they're going to have a team there. So you ask a question, and they may, each of their team may feel they want to jump in with a 3 or 4 minute answer. By the time you're done, it's 15 minutes is
what
gone.
I'm saying with one answer, and it's a great answer. Wow, we're satisfied, but we got 25 other questions that didn't get asked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you could, even start up and, could you give me a short answer too? Whatever. All right. So, and if you want to share those questions ahead of time, feel free to jot them down, email them to each other. As I said, I know Chris had sent me some suggestions of some things that he had been playing around with, so that you go into the interview and you have a feel for what each person might be looking to ask. All right. Anything else? All right, Chuck, I'm turning it over to you.
You actually have to pull it up.
Here we go again.
Go back to the drive.
what's the over/under on when you're expert at drive?
My
I'll
drive.
say June.
This isn't showing
Let's
up
go
the
up
way
to,
the
like,
drive
the
usually
search.
shows up. Shared with me.
You go up to like the search up top there.
It's okay.
Just type in A/E.
A/E
Firm evaluation.
firm.
The one that says like best value, is there one there?
Where am I looking?
I don't see it there.
I see summary AE firm, but that I don't have access to.
Share with you. It should just pop up if I do that.
That even money.
Go to the share with me again.
Voice activated.
It's not under working documents, right?
No, it's only shared with you like via emails.
Did you share with them, Chuck?
Yeah.
Rich, if you click the top where it says shared by, it'll sort it, and then maybe we can find Chuck. Little
They've shared with me, where are you talking?
to the right, little to the right and down. No. Yep, one more left.
Oh, shared by.
Doesn't let you sort that one.
It's not
I
doing
think if
anything.
you just open up Google Sheets, go to the upper right where your face is.
Shared date would also do when you get to the end.
You could try sharing,
Sheets.
sorting date.
That should list the ones, so it should be.
RFP scoring matrix. RFQ scoring matrix. Those are
You are signed in with like your school one, right?
I know you would pick up on that.
Well, this one actually, no, it's not. There we go.
There you go. It'll be a lot better now. It's the
Yeah.
top one.
Okay,
Well, that's why you didn't access.
that's it. I was in my,
All right.
my own.
So this is still just this is the only sheet that really matters for right now, besides the cost estimate. We still have the cost proposal is at 35 out of 60 out of 100. So the categories, the only one I got stuff from was Dennis, just to add some stuff related to team chemistry.
Yeah.
That differentiation from other firms, deliverable schedule. Then I just kind of tweaked the other ones kind of based on what we talked about. So the categories are still along the left side there. That's what we got to kind of agree on, and then the rates for each. And the rest is very similar to what we had done. The 1 to 5 scale, I think last time we talked about using that sheet that you had sent around, Rich, so I think we're good there. Unless we wanted to expand on that for each one.
I'm fine with that unless people have issues. Remember, we kind of gave you a definition of what each of those 1 through 5.
Yeah, so everything's still a 1 to 5 scale for everything. So, firm A through D across the top, that obviously would be the firm names, and for each one, everybody's going to give it a 1 to 5 ranking in that category, and then it'll spit out a weight on the next sheet. And then we can either take what we did last time is we came in with everybody's score, and then we kind of talked about it. We kind of each tweaked their own score to come up with the total. I think what we should do is we don't really submit our final score individually until after we've all kind of talked, submit them all, and then we can either take the average of everybody's score for each one and come up with what the weighted average would be, or we can get rid of the high, the low, whatever we want to do. But
So we would do our scoring, and then we have an option or an opportunity when everything is all done to have further conversation. We go through the 4, you hold on to your scores, and then at the end of that process, we
kind of aggregate them all together to come up with what the committee score is for everybody, and that is what it is, and then we.
Yeah. And you have the opportunity based on the process to make adjustments as you feel or.
We do that on Wednesday night or on Thursday.
Well, we do not have a meeting this coming Thursday. We have a meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday to do the interviews. And then we have a meeting on a week from Thursday to actually vote on who the architect's gonna be. So leave it up to you. Would we want to do that at the end of the day on Wednesday? Or would we prefer to do that on a week from Thursday?
So if we didn't do it at the end of the day on Wednesday, we can't open the fee proposals until the following Thursday. So you're gonna have the whole week before we have to select the firm and everything.
Yep.
I would think if we all go through our scoring and stuff as we're going through it, and we're talking after the interviews next week, at the end of the last one on Wednesday, we should all have a ranking for all 4 of them. That, you know, if we did it by that, like submitted it then, then we can open up the proposals and we would
Fee
know.
proposals at that time.
We would know, and then it's still executive session, so
Right.
only we would know, and then we could kind of formalize everything over the course of the next
When
week.
we meet
for the following
a week from
Thursday.
Thursday. Sound good to everyone?
And then we
Yes.
can basically have a discussion in executive session.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
On Wednesday.
on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, yeah.
That way you don't have to call
You're
an
not
executive
saying
session
the
to
next-
talk
a week
about
from
it again the following
Thursday, yeah.
Thursday, you know?
Because our vote for an architect has to be done obviously in
Yep.
open session.
But it also means we'll be closer to the actual interviews, which I think is gonna be better, in terms of recall and
Yeah.
fairness.
I would hope, after reading the booklets, after doing the cycles, after all the stuff that we've done, we would be prepared at the end of the day on Wednesday. That means Wednesday may run late.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, because I think Wednesday, at the end of the last one, we're gonna have our normal discussion, and then it's gotta be, okay, we discussed this one and whatnot. Now let's discuss all 4,
We may need as much as another hour to discuss it and then open the
because there's gonna be a refresh.
cost
Right.
pieces and then, put it all together, so.
Yeah, so the way it'll be set up, I'll set it up the same way we did the other one, where it's a form, so it's just all kind of documents it. So once you hit submit at the end of whenever we're done on Wednesday to each individually rank them, we'll just have the scores, and I can set it up so it just populates what the final weighted scores are for everybody.
And I think we should have our final discussion on that before we open up, because
Yes.
opening up, because we want to make sure so that we can all argue and debate and whatnot and come to terms on, okay, I want to change my ranking for this one, that one, here and there, and juggle things. And then we open up, there may not be a difference.
No arguments, discuss.
Yes, friendly conversation.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we've all discussed like what the rankings are ahead of that. I mean, it is still kind of, we're still kind of messing with the system. If we all rank it, we get what the weighted score is, and then we say, okay, well, I'm gonna go back and change this so I can change the weighted score. We have all that discussion ahead of time so that we all make the decision with everybody's information, and then you put in the score. And that should be the score.
Mhm.
We shouldn't be going back after that.
How much
Well,
did we,
I don't, what do you mean though? You mean like after, you're saying after we don't actually enter our scores until after the final one?
So, yeah, exactly. So we're each grading,
Yeah.
making our own notes on everybody as we go along. And we have an open discussion. This is at the end on Wednesday. And after that open discussion where you're getting everybody's feedback on everybody, that's when you're inputting your final scores for, if you're giving so-and-so a 4 on this category, 5 here. After that, we shouldn't change them because you're changing it because you didn't like the total score that they ended up with. That's not right.
where is the total score on that?
So the
I mean,
total,
not total score, where is the, based on the cost estimate?
so right now, anything I input on this, so if I went, I'll change it to 53.
53. Yeah, that
Really
person
blew us
did that.
away.
That's when the highest
That's
lows.
got real good team chemistry.
So that right there would just come out in the weighted score sheet here.
Yeah.
And then, so that's actually 65 out of 80. And then the proposed cost and everything would all be in here. So if this was like 100,
So
this was 90, 32, whatever, all 92.
Oh, on
whatever.
the second tab.
Yeah, everything, this would all just be hidden. I mean, this would all be
could
separate.
we see the other tab? I'm looking where the cost estimate.
The cost estimate goes in right here.
I.
Oh, sorry, I was going on this. My bad. I thought I was sharing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the weighted score just kind of populates itself. There's nothing that you actually add there.
All right, and then we get to the,
The proposed cost estimate, we just put in the 4 costs. And it takes based on, how close it is to the,
and what percentage does the cost have on the total score?
35%.
35% will be based on.
35 is based on cost.
So we very well could
65.
have a firm that is our number one, and then when we get the cost estimates, 35% of the score, if they are substantially over or under, they could change that ranking.
If they're substantially your number one, then it would have to be substantially over a term.
And you would also, that would be assuming that the numbers were close. Whereas if they were really, really the favorite of everybody, then you would think the voting would show a good disparity between your first and second to make up for that 35%.
Well, I mean, I know the algorithm goes all that, but we're not obligated to take the low bid.
We are obligated to take the winner.
Right.
Which includes, but if the low bid, that's why I'm saying if the numbers are really tight, if all the votes are really tight, then that could be the determining factor. So if you don't want
Right.
that to be the determining factor, then we want to be more, have a better spread with our voting. So if you really like a firm, then those numbers should be,
So you're saying it shouldn't be 35%?
no, I'm saying I shouldn't have, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, if you rate, if you like one firm the best, and you give them all fives, the firm that you like second best shouldn't be
Should
all
be all
fives
fours,
or 1 4.
right.
It should be all threes,
Right.
and then the next one should be all twos. Just
Yeah.
philosophically throwing the numbers around,
Yeah.
so that
That's fair.
unless the number is significant, because you don't want them to be very close, but that 35% throws it off. And you got who you didn't want.
I would
I
say
mean, that-
all of us saw the,
Yeah, that kind of like
Right.
subverts the whole idea of the best value, because the idea is, yeah, you might like somebody the best, but somebody else is pretty close to them, so you got to rank it accordingly. But if that person's like $20 million higher on something that's only $100 million, then the value is still in taking the 20 million lower and getting your second best on your letter rating.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
and I
make
may
sense.
rank someone all fives, and you may rank them all threes,
Mhm.
and that's gonna average them all out. So in the end, you may end up with very small difference between the number one and number two.
But I do see your point, and I think that we do get at some of that by holding our submission of our votes until we've seen all four and had the discussion,
We've had the
because
discussion, yeah.
then you can really look at them holistically and make a decision about your own personal ranking.
I'm just saying, for me, I'm gonna have it, so I wanna make sure, so that when I look at my numbers, there's a very clear distinction, who I thought was the best, not, unless I thought two were great, and then in which case, then sure, it'll be a hairline.
Right.
But if I think there's a good distinction, I'm gonna make it clear, with my numbers, that there's a distinction.
I just, I know that I'll feel uncomfortable if one of the four firms, in my mind, is head and shoulders above the other three. But then because of the cost estimate number, it flips it. And that number one now becomes number two because of, and depending on what that difference is.
Because of 1/10% in a number, in a price.
Yeah, I would hate to be making the decision based strictly on that, but I
Because
don't know,
then,
we'll see how it comes. It's,
because you don't want the cost to ultimately be the only deciding factor, is what, that's what it would feel like.
But the cost isn't the only deciding factor. That's what you already have 2/3 of it towards all of the content and everything. We've
And-
already weighted in there. You baked it into the evaluation.
I
You got to
mean,
consider cost at some point. You can't just go with you can't say, oh, I love them so much that I'm going to give them fives and everybody ones, so it doesn't matter what the cost is. That's
no, and I don't want to do that either, but I don't know, and I guess I'm not going to know until we get to that point. But I almost wish we were going through and judging the firms and then opening the cost, but not necessarily even putting that as a percentage, but saying based on the cost numbers, does that change our calculation as to who's one and who's two, and not just putting it into a
So
formula?
if one's so far off, like if one's way out there, it's not going to hurt the lower ones.
Yeah.
Because it's a weighted.
Well, hopefully
It's
the
a
cost
weighted
estimates
average
are
of the
going to come in
cost.
pretty similar, and that's not going to be a determining factor.
So,
because,
I mean, there's a
so
spread of
close.
costs right there. Let's just, I don't know what the actual figures are going to be, but if you look at that between 110 and the low, which is 90, right?
Yeah.
You're only giving up less than 6 points. It's not going to matter that much. I mean, that's.
Yeah, it's not like one
20%.
gets 35 and the
That's
other
what I'm
gets
saying. They're
1.
not getting like 5 or something. It's just it's a 20% difference in the price, and you dock them 6 points comparative. Go back to the input real quick and just look at the scores that you have that I just dropped in for A versus B. You know, they're the same score except for on a something that's got right now a 15 factor. Firm B got a 5, and then on something that got a 10 weight, you know, Firm A got a 5, but Firm B got a 4. So that's the only difference in the scores there. If you go to the weighted score for the two of them, you can see Firm B comes out on top because we weighed the one thing a little bit heavier. It's a point difference.
Yeah.
So as long as they're within a threshold on the dollar value, it's not going to skew it as much as you might think. It's not like they're getting, like you said, it's not like one's getting 35 and one's getting 20. It's all going to be in the 30 range if they're
And I think the other side of it too is when we're gonna discuss, probably the first question we should ask after we've seen all four is there anybody here that we really wouldn't want, that really we didn't want? And, you know, you might have that, okay, maybe there is one, but then those other three, if they're in the tops, then any one of them, I mean, what are the chances that we're gonna have three that we don't want? And it's hard to
These
believe.
are four good firms from.
Yeah.
Right, so it's hard to believe, in which case then it really isn't such a big deal, even if it did have.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, if you
one
did this
other
for
issue,
the top 15, it'd be a lot different.
Yeah. one other issue that will come up at the same time is, do we hire one architect for both programs?
So that's what I was going to say too. Is you actually have to do this for both
Yeah.
schools, but the scores shouldn't change because the presentation and all the information didn't change. So our scores input don't change. It's the price that's the component that changes.
So they're giving us 3 prices, huh?
yeah, so there's 3 total.
So there'll be 3 spreadsheets.
Well, it would be 3 best.
They're giving us a
Yeah.
a
There'll be
price for
3
each
proposed
tool
cost scales.
and then a reduction basically if they were to get both. So that will be, a-
Or not.
yeah, well, that will be a conversation we have to have. We may have, you know, and I think we're gonna wanna know, you know, whatever firm we pick as the number one firm, is that a firm that we feel comfortable doing 2 schools? Or do we not feel that they can handle that?
Well, and that could be, whereas they might win, they might be the number one for one of the schools, and maybe number one, but not number one for the other one, and certainly not number one for the both of them. Chart.
Well, we'll have to see.
You know,
But I know
they would be
that,
great, but they don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah, I know that, you know, knowing that we're looking at one firm for both schools, they have gone back and added staff now. You'll see when you look at the booklets, so that they have 2 totally different teams, not
Mhm.
totally different, but 2 different teams
Yeah.
that are now, you know, preparing this, so.
So comment on the weights.
Yeah.
You know, I understand, I have no issues with the spreadsheet. References, I don't think that anyone gave us someone who would give them a bad reference.
Yeah, the weights were actually just left over, so that's all for.
So we might want to lower that. The school tours, a lot of the designs that we're gonna see or have seen are kind of a mix between what the architect thought the project should be and what the client thought the project should be. So some of the ones we're gonna see that we don't like may be the fault of the owner rather than the fault of the architect. I think we should definitely rate the references and the school tours, but I don't think that combined, they take 50% of the overall.
What do you?
You know,
What do you
reference
think?
should probably be like 2 or 3. And the school tours should probably be like 5 or 6. And then you
I keep the references a little higher,
okay,
because the people I spoke to had a lot of experience
yeah,
with
fair
the
enough.
architectural firm, and they gave me a lot of background information
Okay.
that we wouldn't get otherwise.
Agreed.
Just for reference to it's not 5% of the total score. It's
No,
just
right.
a relative weight to
Right.
everything else. So it's rated like a third of what we rated team chemistry. But
What about 5 and 5? Just drop the tours down.
I feel like the tours are really important, especially because we're seeing multiple buildings. We're seeing multiple for each architect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 2
So-
buildings for each of them.
So I think through that we can see
But we're
if
not
it
all
was,
seeing the same
right,
buildings.
but we'll see if it's an owner issue or an architect issue.
But I'm thinking of the one that we went to Wednesday.
Mhm.
15-year-old versus 2 years
Yeah.
old. The design philosophies have changed a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But those were the 2 schools they chose.
No, I get that.
Yeah. and they could have taken us to, a different school.
But maybe they couldn't get access to it.
I don't know. I mean, I've been to other schools that they've designed. I was at Guilford High School. When we were up today, there was one of the teachers is in Mansfield, and they're doing a school up there that's just about to open, I guess. And she was talking about,
That committee chair.
I think with the school tours, like the ones that they had decided on, kind of tell something about them too. Like I forget, I think it was Slam. They had a long narrative of why they picked the two schools to show us. I think that kind of shows something.
I think that comes with that.
Yeah, just like how kind of deep they might have thought about it, or how much thought they're kind of putting into the school, what we're looking for, I guess.
Yeah, it may just be my, I love aesthetics, so it could be. So if everyone else wants to drop the school tours down, I understand.
To me, it says a lot about, there's a lot of little things, and maybe it's my background as a principal, an elementary principal. I'm looking at how these schools function and operate, and some of the minor things, the kind of cubbies they put in, that kind of stuff. As I'm walking through, there's a lot of decisions. Now, you're right, some of those decisions are based on the owner. So I would not judge someone because a gym was smaller.
Right.
That gym was smaller because that's what the town spec'd out.
Yeah. Also, the quality of the tour, the people they sent, the support they sent meant a lot too. So
Yeah.
I would still keep it at a fairly high number.
Just keep in mind though, it's no different than writing a resume. And, somebody who knows how to write a resume could make everyone sound awesome.
Mhm.
And it is marketing, it is trying to make the sale. So, they may have wanted to get into one school, which was exactly what we wanted. It was built on a agricultural land and everything else, but they couldn't get in. So they found another one that was built on an old landfill, but they spun it and wrote the narrative accordingly. So just keep that in mind, that it is a marketing exercise, and they're good at this. And it's not a criticism. That's why they're the top 4.
We good here?
Well, I mean, right now, school tours is weighted like twice as heavy as references. Is everybody good with that, or up or down?
I could make it even maybe, but no more than the 15 total points
That's where I was thinking 5 and 5 even, but if you want to go higher, that's fine.
or 7. And I mean, if you
Yeah,
know,
again, it's all relative. So I mean, I can make it 1,000 and 1,000.
Yeah, I would rate references a little bit higher.
I tend to agree with that. I mean, like you said, you got somebody on the phone and they spoke to you for 45 minutes.
Right.
And if there was something negative, and there's bumps in the road on every one of these, they're going to say it, and you're going to be able to
They're gonna tell you,
infer
right.
whether or not you were getting the reactions and the architect was doing what they were supposed to, or if things had to be adjusted. So I look at references as you're getting a human being to tell you what the real story is. Even though they might be an advocate, it's still.
Yeah, so maybe just flip them like you had said.
Yeah.
10 and 5, references 10, tour 5.
And those of us who didn't call references, of course, are going to rely on.
Yeah,
You guys
detailed
too.
notes.
Yeah. I hate to downgrade the school tours that much.
Okay.
I mean, I'd go
Yeah.
7 and 7.
7
and 7?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
10 and 10.
7.5.
Again, if you're making them the same, 5 and 5 is the same as 7 and 7.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, not in relation to everything else.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to change the other ones, you're going to change the other scores, though, still. So just make those relative to the 5.
So
That's
7 and 7.
Yeah, 7 and 7 works.
It's going to be the same. I'll do whatever you want.
I can tell that this is paining you a little bit.
I would do 6 and 6 now.
And the overall impression piece is okay at 5?
well, hang on, go all the way down the list there, because you want to keep like team chemistry now.
Can you
amongst
zoom
the
in?
firm.
Brian, can you blow this up a little bit?
It's not me, it's Rich.
Rich, can you blow
Can
this
I
up?
what?
Keep this command plus.
Make us not have to do what you just did with your glasses. Because I don't have mine
Plus,
either.
plus sign.
Go to the
Oh, that's enough.
That control.
There it
There
goes.
it goes.
There you go.
We're just
That
slow
works.
getting there.
go to the input sheet. So go to the input sheet at the bottom.
Are you good? I think so.
Yeah, so team chemistry amongst the firm.
There.
Yeah, it's much better.
Biggest TV we can find.
It's great.
I want you to know there was a time in my life where I oversaw all the technology for the school district. But that was a time where technology was
When
changed.
there wasn't technology.
That was lots of pencils, well, a string.
Overhead projectors.
No,
It was
that's
Apple II computers.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was-
It was actually more difficult then.
Yeah, it was.
So team chemistry amongst the firm first. Is everybody good with that, Dennis? I think that one was one of the
Yeah,
ones you had.
thanks
here,
for
so-
taking-
Firm or design team? I mean, that's the whole design team we're talking about, right?
Right.
But I like that category a lot.
And then how much do we weight that versus
Well, you
what
have-
we given?
Oh, you're
that's
redoing
10,
it?
Right?
I had 10. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't wanna-
The chemistry, yeah, the chemistry is probably higher
Change
than
it, I was
the
just clarifying.
references.
Oh no, it'll make it easier for everybody.
I thought that was fine.
So it's 1.5 as important as the references in the school tours.
Fair.
Roughly.
Yeah, I think so. And they're not gonna bring people along, I can downplay every one of these, I mean, they're not gonna bring people along that they're bickering with and that they're not gonna present that they do well.
I mean, we hope not.
Fine.
Well,
At the risk of overcomplicating this, it looks like, as you suggested, a number of them have now presented 2 different design teams for 2 different schools.
Yeah.
Do we think in these presentations, they're gonna say, this is our proposed North design team, this is our proposed North End design team? Does that complicate any of this? Or do we just assume,
More than likely,
because I see there's a lead
If that-
designer for both, and I think at
Right,
least.
but they are
They're
designated.
designating, somebody's a lead designer for the, well, that's a bad example, I think.
so we are gonna vote, but we are voting for Norton, for New North End and for combo.
So that's why, at least as I looked at Slam, it didn't look like JCJ, I think theirs was the same, but Slam at least had very clearly.
Yep.
This is our proposed lead designer for this, and yeah, obviously, committee's choice, you might like one and say, we do go with 2 firms, you might want one on a different one, I don't know, but.
so in reality,
Yeah.
what will happen
That's what I'm trying to do.
from the peanut gallery is if they end up with both schools, we will get exactly what
What they
package says.
Yep.
If they end up with one school, they will put the better team on.
Yeah.
And then if it happens to be another team that they said, they will ask for permission.
So I don't know how we would ever factor that in here anyway, so that's why I said. it.
You'd have to have like another score sheet so
Yeah.
you can change.
I think we just
So
have
just to
to
be clear, right
out.
now, we're just
Right.
having one evaluation for the firm. There isn't.
And they are
We're not
one-
each doing an individual one for both schools.
No, and they're basically gonna stand up there and do a
I
presentation.
think we treat the whole
They
That's
are
firm,
fine.
going to look
treat
at.
the whole firm like a design team.
Right.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
the rest will sort itself out. I just I didn't want us to be in one of those interviews and go, oh, here's another one, you know, how do I?
And they'll present their ideas for each of the sites and may designate, this is the person who's gonna be the lead on that particular project, but
But I'll tell you what, though, it's an interesting point, that dynamic between the 2 and the 1 might make it almost easier to rank on this one, if you say, they just didn't seem with the 2 that they had together, even though they might for one.
But
There
as
is
you know,
one-
we have 2 different sites, right? We have one that's pretty much a blank slate. We have one, we gotta build a school on site. It's possible they've chosen their design teams that way. Want to see.
So then the next one is team chemistry, and this is like us with the project manager who'd be our main interface as another category.
and that'll be an easy one to judge.
I like-
A group of people standing in front of you, who do I feel I can work best with? So that one's an important one too.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely more important than the team.
Differentiation from other firms, I can't do until all 4, I've seen all 4.
Which is fine, because we're not rated until that,
Right.
so.
But clearly, at the end of the 4, I should be able to say, this is the one that seems to me that, so again, that one,
I think that one's a heavy, that one to me is, in my opinion, that's the highest weight. Well, that and overall. because those two are kind of interchangeable. It's in my mind.
So the differentiation from the other firms,
Yeah, but what
you
is,
can't really do it as a ranking if it has a high weight again, because that would just, that's your determination right there. It's just based on who everybody likes the most.
I'm
which
not
is,
sure,
again,
I'm not sure what differentiation we're judging. If it's overall or if it's,
Let's get this in the email.
Yeah, so,
What's an example?
someone that comes in with.
like 20 people.
No, it's not people. I think it's the
No,
ideas
it's-
that they
Yeah,
have.
like the approach.
So-
Someone comes in and says, look, you've got North End School and here's the environment and stuff, and here's based on that, here's what
To
I'm
me, this shows the
Right.
difference.
Right.
And there's a difference between the effort put into this
Mhm.
and just picking one item.
Yeah. Here's my ideas for how I can incorporate some energy things into this, and here's, they really thought about our project.
Right. But so, yeah, I don't think that's a ranking. I think it's a grade.
One of the
Yeah.
things, I chuckled a little bit, but I talked to a reference from a wealthier school district, and he said that they gave each of their firms $10,000 so that they would really think about that their design before they came into the interview.
Competition.
Yeah. I said, I don't think Cheshire's gonna do that. But this is a Fairfield County, they have more money to play with, I think.
We spent our funny money budget with the ads in the paper.
Yes. We spent a lot of money today
Right.
already, so.
So I like it as I like it as a category or something to grade. I just don't think it carries as much as the chemistry and stuff. I'd probably put it closer to the 7.
That's fine.
7 is,
Works for me.
I'll drop my 25 to a 7, no problem.
Do you think anyone is gonna come in and not have a deliverable schedule?
So the deliverable schedule is kind of how it meets like our timeline and expectation. Like they could have a lot more overlap in the two schools. I haven't looked at anything yet, but they might have more overlap in the schools if they did both of them together, where they kind of combine the design effort there. Or maybe they're not meeting the deliverable schedule we had in there, or anything along those
Is
lines.
it realistic as opposed to they just.
If you think that's gonna be something that we can judge.
I think they're gonna come in and say, bet we're gonna be open, we're gonna come in early.
Right.
And who's not gonna say that?
We know when you want the school done, and you can be certain.
We'll be a
Well,
year
you'll know-
late, 50
You'll know when you
million
see them,
over.
because they've all got an outline in there.
And this is not, I don't know, in my opinion, it's not really something you can judge, because they're all gonna say, yes, absolutely.
That's what
We've
I
already
said.
organized the team, we've organized everybody, and we've got backup, and,
We could rate that one in 3 years from now.
exactly, that's,
We could blast it out there too. None of them are sets.
I would leave it in there if you make it a little value.
I would leave it in.
5?
5?
Make it a 5.
Oh,
Relax. Hang on.
45.
There we go. 45 is next for sure. Small keyboard.
That's an important.
This is important.
The important one, they should talk about this, and this is somewhat intangible, you're gonna be able to read, you can read through them talking about this to get an understanding, whereas just schedule. I think this one is more
This will bias you
subjective.
though towards one firm doing 2 projects.
Right.
Right.
If you have a firm that can do a great job on one project, but can't handle 2, you're gonna end up with a lower score.
So I would think this one would almost be ignored if you're looking, when, on the rating sheet that's just for North, or just for North End, you ignore it, but on the rating sheet for combo, this one, you say, I don't think this firm could, because they really didn't.
They're also all saying they can too. I know what you mean. I think you judge them on whether they can.
Yeah, that's a good point. They all said they could. It's like our job to evaluate how we feel like they actually could based on their workload, talking to them, kind of a plan for both and what they're
What do they say in here? Who the people are in front of us? Do they really have the capability? And those are kind of the questions we ought to be pushing.
Mhm.
You know, what kind of capability does your firm have? How many people are you putting on this? How many other projects do you have going at this time?
Again, whatever score everybody gives them for these categories, that's their score for all three total values that we're coming up with. It doesn't change. The only thing that's changing on the other three values is the price.
You're not doing three separate sheets.
Exactly, that's what I'm getting at. So if you rank them all the same, again, the difference is gonna be the same for all, so it doesn't.
You can't have this for someone who might only get Norton.
You're right, this line may be distracting when we're evaluating one school.
Yeah, you just ignore this one if you evaluate one.
Yeah, so it'd just be this, the weighted sum of the ones. And this would be for the two schools.
Not necessarily, because there might be
It must be
firms that
separated.
have a lot of work in their backlog.
Can you just say workload and not?
Well,
Yeah.
this says two concurrent projects.
No, that's fine, but I think we should evaluate how much workload they have.
So I can make it two different line items.
Just say manage our projects.
Right.
Or the projects.
Well, we can make the first one workload and the second one ability to manage two concurrent projects, or two concurrent projects. And then just don't add it up for the one where you're looking at the combined pricing.
That's where you can use the residuals from those sevens.
I'll make a comment.
I'd like to offer a suggestion for adding one more on here, just to see what everybody thinks. Right now, we're all talking about the front end. For me, I'm really concerned about how they manage the construction project. What's their construction admin procedure like, and how do they take charge of that? And how do they handle issues and change orders, and what do they do? If they speak a little bit about that, do they have a team that's gonna be on site, how many times a week, or what do they do? How often do they visit? How often do they put reports together? How often do their consultants expected to go to the site and do inspections and that sort of thing? I'm just one guy, so I mean, that kind of thing is important to me. That's sort of one of my questions, actually.
Where would that fit in here? Are you saying you need a separate item?
Well, either be a separate item unless we think it fits in with something else. I don't see anything on there that's, to me, everything on here is just front-end design, but we're not hiring the architect just to design this. We're hiring them to manage the construction process. And we're hiring the consultants to manage the construction process. And we're not asking anything about that here to get an impression from them to say, hey, they seem like they could really design this well, but I really wasn't impressed. They're going to be on site once a month. And that's it. Or these guys are great. They're there every day, or they're doing, or whatever it is they might say that might say, wow, these guys really know how to manage when it's under construction and how to work with the contractors.
The contract tells them they have to be there every 2 weeks. At a minimum. But there's a lot of stuff between the minimum and reality. So you want to add something like construction services.
Construction admin services, something like that. I don't, that was my thought. Like I said, I'm just one guy here. I'm not trying to
No,
lose
that's
us
fine.
anyway.
I think it's a good idea.
I like it.
I just, everything here just seems all front end, and once the design drawings are handed to us, that's all of this. All right, what about the rest of their work? We're not evaluating that at all. And who knows if they even talk about that? I hope they would.
Well, if not, you'll have some questions.
Well, that's one of my questions, but it almost seems like it should be a thing here, because I
Right.
didn't see it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea.
It also appears to be, it's addressed in some of these too, so it should be in there.
I hope they talk about it. I mean, it's a major part of the
Sheet that
project.
Jeff sent us, a couple of other things. Communication, firm strategy to engage the public with the marketing capabilities that they have. Good stuff in here on.
What is their response, I was confused by that. Would our expectation be of them for that? That's something I'm just completely naive on.
What, on the communication piece?
Yeah,
that becomes a lot of small group interactions. Are they getting together with the staff to get their input? Are they meeting with people in the community around Norton School to get their input and communicating with them?
Like, for instance, I heard that one group went with the principal to the retirement community that was located next door to have tea with the old folks to let them know it wouldn't be too disruptive. And they were very happy with that.
But, as you're doing this design work, if you're not including the police and fire in the process, if you're not including the staff in the process, the park and rec department, there's a lot of back and forth to make sure that people feel that they've had input into the design. If you don't do that, then there's gonna be a lot of sniping as the building goes up.
I didn't know if it was on the design side or if it was like putting out, updates every month on, news
No, we don't
flashes. where we
expect them
offer
to
the
do
public.
newsletters for the community.
That's what I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah,
So,
but there's a lot of communication that goes on, and I know that there was one situation, there was when I was talking to one of my references, he talked about going out to the community around where the school was being built. And I could see that very much, particularly in the Norton area, where you're gonna be pulling down trees and putting that up and bringing stuff into that back way and all that. You're gonna want people in that community to feel that, we have their interests in mind.
sure, okay. That's helpful, thank you.
Is that good there? The construction admin? Piece earlier?
Yeah, those are for me. Does it make sense for everybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah. But do we wanna add something in about
Communications.
communication? Communication, staff and community?
Yeah, I would really like to add that.
Outreach?
Yeah,
Like that?
community engagement.
Community interaction.
Oh, I think
It's not just outreach.
Write it down quick before you forget.
Yeah, because I think that is going to be a really big part of it. Because I think both sides, people have strong feelings and connection to them, and any changes is difficult.
I think it's great to see what their plan is to engage. I think it's great.
And I had sent this to everyone. If you want me, I can send it again. But this is from our attorney. It was interview worksheet, and then there were a couple of pages here of possible questions. So if you want it again, let me know. I'll send it out again.
back to the weights here for
Mm.
the last 5.
I think workload's pretty important.
What kind of weight do you put on
Mm.
important there?
The other
Yeah.
thing about that, though, is how honest are they gonna be, are they ever gonna say
Yeah.
we're overloaded?
We're back to the
And I'm not minimizing, I'm just saying, what are we gonna be able to garner from
Right.
that?
Yeah.
Whereas, like the overall impression, that's purely subjective. They can't, you're gonna be able to get that from that.
right, but we really want something we can actually assess.
But I think it's valid to have, that to me would be,
The workload was addressed in the RFQ. True.
Yeah,
So
they show what other projects
get
they've got
the
going
information
and when
from
those
there.
projects are finishing.
That's
Right.
true.
but I mean, you can still ask them about it or see if they talk a little bit about
Oh,
it to get
Yeah.
a sense. But the thing is, nobody's, they're gonna say, what, we have a good backlog, we're busy, we're a popular firm, we do a lot, but this fits right in perfectly because we're wrapping up some project, so I don't know how much you're gonna get other than to try and say, well, are they blowing smoke at us or are they?
If their
I can't do
pants
anymore.
match the
Go the line here.
My boss keeps piling these things on me.
So what do we want to give that for rank? I mean, is it more than the schedule? Or is it another 5?
I'd be comfortable with 5.
Yeah.
I think this ties in with that.
Yeah.
To me, this is almost another 5.
Yeah.
This is a 400 for me.
Well, I'm willing to go up, but not to 400. But I would do a 10 or a 15.
Yeah.
15 would be like the highest weight of any of them there. Besides,
Yeah, but all the other ones are non-construction. Give it a 10. If everybody's cool with 10, we can go with 10.
Yeah.
I do think it's important, and 10's a valid one.
12.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's swirling.
Um,
So you
It's all
keep
you.
track of how close you are to 85.
It won't matter because it kind of takes it as a percent of everything. So
Oh, really?
it'd be at 60 for the, I don't think it itself. I'll just show you.
I would either do 7 or 10 for community engagement. I feel pretty strongly about it. But that's just me.
I think 10 makes sense.
I got raised low, so why?
You didn't get the 400 though.
No, that's good. 10 compromise.
10.
Sure. I think this is an important one. Is this a 15?
I would like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do a 15.
15 or 20, really. It's
Subjective, but it's important.
It's subjective, but when you
It's
step back
important
at the
to
end,
highlight the overall view.
You're gonna say, all right, I got all these little pieces, but what do I really think of these guys?
So is 15 good enough, or is 15 too high? I mean,
Well, we're already scoring that in 5 and 6. So to me, the overall impression is the X factor. That's not a 15. Because then you let the blitz.
But chemistry is different than the presentations that they bring. So
Right.
just even just.
And the ideas
The
overall
ideas and
about
whether
where
or
they're
not they
going and maybe
bring-
what this project could look
Even
like.
if
and-
they bring in, they have renderings
so-
done, they.
Right.
In my mind, that's the differentiation from other.
See, yeah, I thought differentiation and overall impression were the most similar.
They
You
are.
explained effort, like who brought the most effort to the presentation. I thought I might confuse that a little with overall impression. That was actually my first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think putting the overall impression at 15, especially when you have the differentiation and the team chemistry stuff, you're just weighting that way too heavy
Right.
compared to that. We kind of minimized everything we had for schedule, workload, and ability to manage. That's all adds up to what our overall impression was. So is it worth the same?
well, the thing, I hear what you're saying. I just
Well,
like
the
team
intangibles.
chemistry with the PM and us. That's how do we feel we can interact with them? That really is separate from the impression of whether you say, yeah, we can work with this person. They see my point. Wow, they're charismatic. They can lead. They can show. To me, that's different than the overall impression. They might be great. The rest of what they did didn't match up to what everybody else did. So that's just how I take it. So I do think team chemistry with the PM, I think that still is a valid one.
But could the differentiation be rolled into overall impression? Because I think that,
Or get rid of.
or only differentiation.
Well, I would like to leave the overall impression. If you want to eliminate differentiation, that would be fine with me.
I agree they're both similar.
I think at the end, I need to step back and think and say, there's a lot of intangibles here, but I've looked at 4 presentations of where this firm's going to take me. What do I think? And I think there's going to be one firm, I hope, that really stands out. And it may not always show up in these little pieces. It may show up in a more holistic sense.
If you want to score overall impression at 15, then I would agree with getting rid of differentiation.
That's fine with me.
I'm okay with that too.
Okay.
But so then when we're ranking, we should consider that like the presentation related stuff into the overall impression, which I think makes sense. Yeah.
That's pretty much whatever. You walked away from that, and how much wow did you have?
Right.
This is,
Yeah. How prepared were they? Yeah.
they're really going to do a great job for us. Okay, that's your overall impression. It's not the big pieces, the whole part.
Right.
It might. That's
Yeah.
how I.
Are we there?
That seems good to me.
Sounds good. Any other thoughts on this?
Can I throw something out there?
No!
You're all wrong. Go back.
It has to do with the evaluation scores. And I do this not only with RFPs, but I do it with interviews. There's 4 firms. Each firm has either 1, 2, 3, or 4. So your best firm for references gets a 4. Second best 3, 2, 1. This way everybody's forced to pick their firm in every category.
If you do that, you take the weights out of there.
How do you rank the references?
Got to pick one. Which one had the best references? Second best. It's a judgment call.
Yeah, but I could have been a lousy interviewer, and Sarah's a really good talker. So that reflects on the person that did the interviews.
It's Food for thought.
We
Just throw
we
it
could
out
come
there.
back saying all 4 references were stellar.
That's how it's
And you'd
set
be
up
forced
right
into
now. It's
saying,
not a ranked choice
you know,
thing.
one is low and one is high, even though all 4 are stellar.
See, in my
Not a
mind,
bad idea, but I don't know that it would work under this scenario.
they all scored very close numbers on the references.
But if you look at overall impression, it would force you to pick 1, 2, 3, 4.
That you could do.
But the schedule would be tough. Hey, they all seem like they're lined up on schedule, and then you're slamming one of them. Just
Yeah, I'd be worried that if we really felt something like references was all equal, forcing one to be a 4 and one to be a 1 is really
You're really forcing one to be a 1 and one to be a 7.
maybe artificially, you know.
It's a judgment call.
Yeah.
You know, when you do it that way.
We all set? Good. Thank you very much, Chuck.
Thank you.
And so just, if you want to look at it, I mean, right now, that, the weights and everything add up to 91, but it's still worth 65% of the score. So you see firm C had a 5 and everything, they're still only getting to 65.
Mhm.
They scored 91 out of 91. It's still 100% of the 65 weight. That's all. Just so everybody's clear.
Oh, okay, so it's a percentage, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so it's not 100
65%.
scores.
Well, the total ends up being a 100 score because 65 is based on all these things we just did, and 35 is based on the dollar value. But it's how much out of the 91 available weights you got.
Okay, we're all set?
65 is the weighted
It's,
score.
it's in the magic.
Oh, it's not the sum of the weights.
That's what I'm saying. The sum of the weights, it's 91 out of 91.
Oh, it's
So
91,
100%
that's,
of
I
65.
got you, no.
Okay, if it's all right, I need to move on. Thank you. This is important. I didn't want to cut it short, but we have a couple things we just have to get to. We're getting late. Owner's rep. We have to, well, actually, this we could deal with. Wait a minute, let me just take a quick look at the calendar.
I thought we didn't need this until after we.
The owner's rep statement of qualifications is due on the 8th. We have a meeting on the 9th. So we could finalize this on the 9th if we needed to. But let's take a quick look and see if there's anything. Jeff has gone through, the things that are in green are just there because they need to be changed based on the 2 RFPs that we're sending out. The things that are in yellow are things that that we'll need to fill in. Some of these obviously can be filled in when we get to it. And as I said, we've got a week or 2 weeks really before this has got to be finalized.
Where is this one though? That document's not out there.
That wasn't the email.
Was this one sent out as an email or was this, yeah?
Yeah.
It should be in the docs. I mean, Jeff has been doing all the stuff with Google Docs. And so therefore, you know, when you ask me, where is it? I don't always have an answer to that.
There's a file for RFP resources, owner's rep, then there's RFP. The latest draft is from the 9th.
Now, let me look at working documents, because that's where you often put stuff. Don't see it
I
there.
think you might be back in your personal account.
I am not a big fan of.
It is from the 9th, because that's when the email.
Yeah, so the one that he's looking at on the screen, those says the 23rd in it.
This one?
RFP owner's rep.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It doesn't show what folder it's in, it just says yesterday.
I'm saying if it was in an email and you just open it on the email, or you guys are working on it together through the email, it's not gonna be on a shared drive for us, for all the signatures.
I don't believe that that's the case. He usually puts everything in, but I just don't have the answer for it, I'm sorry. But I'm picking it up here, so whereas, although it's in a Word document.
Yeah, but that's what you had open before. It was a Word doc. It's a docx.
So I think our next meeting, we'll have to have a talk with Jeff Solon about how this process is working. Because I think I know I'm confused, and it's dealing with where those documents go. He obviously is very comfortable dealing with Google Docs, as I guess, like Chuck is, but some of us are not. All right, and again, once we've chosen the 4 firms, we have to put in the dates. Do we modify this in the event they're pitching both schools? I personally feel very strongly that we should have a single owner's rep overseeing both schools. I think we have a great deal of complexity if we're dealing with 2 separate owners reps on these projects. And the owner's rep is going to be coordinating things, dealing with paperwork. I don't see any reason for us to necessarily have to go to 2 separate firms on that, but that's something for the committee to discuss when we get there.
I have Jeff Sullivan calling me. He's probably listening in. You calling me? Hold on a second. I'm gonna put you on speaker. Jeff?
Yeah.
Are we looking for the RFQ document?
RFP owner's rep.
RFP owner's rep.
So if you go under RFP resources, then go under owner's rep, there's RFP folder that has RFP owner's rep.
Oh, wrong
Yeah.
drive, wrong account.
So that one is, the title of the document says draft 2923. The one we're looking at on the screen is called draft 22323. It's not the same document.
So owner's rep, right? Yeah. RFP.
Can you jump in the,
Yeah, that one was edited February 13th. The second one?
what if you did construction, jump ahead right now to RFQ for construction manager? Let me go back and I'll email you right now on the owner's rep RFP to confirm I have the right one.
This one doesn't have any of the highlight in it.
For construction manager is next on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just have 2 things left on the agenda. We have the RFP for the owner's rep,
Owner's rep.
and then the RFQ for the CM at risk.
So you can see, go ahead and do the RFQ one for the CM and all to each other.
I'll double check right now the RFP and email the link to everybody on the school modernization group, and I'll put it, make sure it's in the folder
Right,
correctly.
and we're gonna have a conversation, because we're having a fair amount of confusion today about Google Doc and where things are and how to get to it and all that sort of thing, so. And that may be me more than others.
Yeah, I mean, I can walk through that.
It's not just you.
It's not just me, okay.
All right, so you're gonna email that?
The RFP for owner's rep, yes.
Okay.
So can you find the construction manager's RFQ?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
All right,
email
you
you.
got it. Okay, thanks. Bye.
So this was a key one. We want to get this out next Monday. And the schedule, if I can very quickly get to the calendar. The schedule we've set up so that you can see we're overlapping as much as we can without burning everybody out. So, we're gonna see the details as we go through this. And I went back to the owner's rep. Okay. So again, the green things, all right. Yellow are the things that Jeff said we needed to check. Cheshire Police Superintendent, I don't know why you felt that one.
Rich, is this the thing I had sent you with my comments on it? That was this document?
I haven't opened that. I have that over here on the side. That's yours right there. Jeff supposedly looked at that in the process. I'm going to get rid of all these things here. So if this is the latest, which says February 27th, Jeff had yours, I can show you, that's, as I said, that's right here, had your comments. He was looking at those, he was then going through the,
Perfect.
and finalizing it. So hopefully those have been incorporated. Okay, references, I don't know what Jeff had in mind there. So I don't know if, are these things that we can answer here, or are these things that probably not? Didn't you have any?
I mean, I think you can answer some of them.
I mean, a lot of this stuff
So
would
this-
normally be things that the attorney.
This is Jeff D'Onofrio's document as the starting point.
Right.
So, I mean, $30 million. Our projects are $80 million
That covers
each.
that.
So
And I don't
you
wanna
could say
just
30, you
throw
want to make it
numbers in there,
50?
so,
I would want 50.
yeah.
So let's change the 30 to 50.
Oh, I think you have to comment.
Oh.
Well, so you're back in your personal account. It switched you back.
Why does it keep doing that?
I said that
You
earlier.
gotta change it in the upper toolbar, because right now it's
Yeah.
like a profile up there.
If you see your picture, you know it's in the end.
Now you might be able to edit.
Now we don't have edit access.
So
So you gotta comment.
Yeah, I had it downloaded, I just edited it.
Yeah.
So I got a better idea. How about we just approve this pending finalization by,
I had one question on it. Was this the document that said it's gonna be a prevailing wage contract?
this is, you had mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's something we should talk about and agree on. Either it's prevailing wage or it's not. I have my
It has
feelings.
to be.
Yeah, you don't have a choice there.
It may not.
If it's
have to
over $1
be
million,
PLA. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The PLA and prevailing wage are two totally different things.
Yeah, I have, Jeff is going to do a
PLA, this is
workshop.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
PLA.
it comes later.
And that's not talked about in here, right?
no, I have on
I'm
our,
good.
on our March 9th agenda, I have project labor
Awesome.
Oh,
agreements.
excellent.
Okay.
And Jeff is preparing the presentation on that.
I saw prevailing wage and I thought it was that. And I was like,
No, no,
geez, we didn't even talk about that. So, okay. Awesome.
It's a statute.
Prevailing wage is state law.
I'm learning.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm learning. That's good. I'm okay with something getting checked.
So I'm not seeing a lot in here that we need to fill. I mean, this is stuff that Jeff D probably needs to put in.
Do we just want to have everybody review and issue comments if they have any?
So did the committee agree to this? I thought we had to.
We haven't.
Those were
Uh,
Chris's
go out.
Oh,
comments.
okay.
Go,
Sorry.
make a right, go down to the end of the hall and on the right.
We have not touched anything on CM at risk. this will be the first time this will be going out as an RFQ. We were hoping to get it out next week. So, we could get on a schedule and essentially we would get CM hired, I think by end of April, was it? I forget
Because this
exactly.
is an RFQ, if we could just agree to have Jeff review it with Jeff and get it posted, because there's no harm. We can review the RFQ, the qualifications when they come in and shortlist whoever we want off of it, so.
Yeah.
There's a little risk of just saying, let them complete
Yeah,
this
just the
together.
generic, yeah.
Right, and we'll just let them fill it in. But certainly, as soon as Ron comes back, we'll make a motion, and I think that's fine. And if we want the RFP for the owner's rep, we can hold off until
I
we've
would
got,
prefer that, I've had a chance to go through the
yeah,
detail.
we've got a couple of weeks before that has to be done. Those proposals are due in pretty soon.
I just had a question on the attachment
Attachment on,
for the owner's rep. Because we asked them for fees for 4 things. But we only
Yeah, we don't
asked
have that one
for
up yet,
matrix
Rich.
for 3 things.
You're saying on the owner's report, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have it up yet.
No, I realize that.
Jeff just texted me that Chris's comments are incorporated into this version.
I made that assumption, but
Yeah.
okay. So where are you talking now, Dennis?
The attachment, I think, was a separate document.
Okay. All right, so I don't know where that is.
It's on the same email when you sent it.
Yeah.
There were 2 attachments on that email.
This is on owner's rep.
221 it looks like.
Shared on drive. one more time. That's the RFQ, so I don't know.
Yeah, it might be that one.
Oh, there it is.
Attachment.
Let's get the RFP.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, so on the proposed fees, we're asking for 4 different fees for A, B, C, and D. But
Yes.
on the matrix, we're only asking for 3 items to be itemized for the time spent.
You want me to be on speaker? Yeah. Jeff's asking to go on speaker. All right, Jeff.
All right, I can hear the questions. I can answer the questions that you guys have. If you go to RFQ, if you want to finish the construction manager RFQ, this is the document that it incorporates the changes that Chris sent me throughout the document. Yes, it does, Chris, have, this is the prevailing wage one. If we want to just scroll through to the first highlighted yellow for references, that references at the end of section 3, I guess, was something that Chris had put in there. There was a section asking for references.
You just
We
passed
can ask for references like we did in other contracts. I don't think that's a bad idea. I just didn't want to add it without, the blessing.
So we would just add, please provide references for, did we specify number of projects last time?
Let me look at the RFQ.
just make a note to insert same wording
Yeah.
as we did in the
Okay.
previous.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, so
All right, we'll get that.
So references, question mark, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all right.
yeah, I'll just dump the same language we have from the other RFQ.
So there's nothing we need to do here, though. He's gonna do it, so that's.
Yep. He's gonna have to do it his end.
So the next yellow items, I heard you say 30 million to 50.
Yep. And then the next question 5, so our 2 buildings are roughly 100,000 square feet each. So, do you want to get at least 75,000, 50,000, whatever the committee is comfortable with?
80.
80?
Sounds good.
80.
How about 81? 80,
87.
But they built a
80,000
square foot building.
yeah, 80,000.
Okay,
It's a good building.
that's a big school.
Yeah, it is.
There are a lot of elementary schools out there that are 80,000 and bigger, so. I mean, you could have somebody who's done a number of schools that are 60s, 70,000.
I think 60
Well, that's
is
the
about
question.
the average.
There's a question and an answer.
60.
Yeah, then if that's what the average is.
Yeah.
The average
Because
size
anything
elementary school. That's-
80 plus is going to be a middle school or a high school.
Right, yeah, I'd be more comfortable if you went lower, than maybe 60,000.
60.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do 60.
Yep,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, and then recent experience was the next one.
Yeah, how many years did you want that?
I would make it 5 because the school project is 3 years.
And I think particularly with COVID, there was a lot of stuff that got messed up.
The next one is in section B of set 4B that indicates in accordance with statutes, develop a short list for firms required to present an oral presentation not to exceed 30 minutes. PowerPoint's permitted. Presentation will be followed by question and answer not to exceed 30 minutes. What we had done with the architects is modify that if you're presenting one school, 2 schools, that sort of language.
Does that really apply if you're a
These,
CO?
these presentations are going to be really dry.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna come in and say, here's the kind of projects I've done in the
Right.
past, here's the kind of subs that I'm working with. You're not talking about any creative design or anything like that.
Right.
Again, it's an RFQ, if you just say not to exceed 60 minutes, we don't want them to exceed 60. If it's 45 minutes, it's not the end of the world. We're only gonna do 4.
At most 4, you
Yeah.
don't even have to do 4.
Yeah, you might not even qualify for it, so.
Right.
Change it to 45.
45?
45.
45 minutes, Jeff.
45 total?
Not to exceed 45, yeah, for, I think, for.
For the presentation. Or
So-
45 presentation
with
plus
question.
Q&A. Yeah, that's not enough.
Yeah, that's why I said it was like 60 minutes, and then it would have the Q&A afterwards, is how it's written.
So this, right now as it reads, you've got a presentation of 30 minutes, Q&A of 30 minutes.
So presentation not to exceed 45 minutes.
So you want presentation not to exceed 45 and Q&A not to exceed 30?
Sure.
Or you're thinking total presentation of everything 45 minutes?
No,
We need a
45
half
to
hour for
30 is
questions. We need
fine.
at least a half hour for questions.
We can
That's
always
got it.
cut it short if we want, you know,
Right.
if we don't have any questions.
Get the hook.
Get the hook out.
You're done.
Yeah.
So do we want the presentation to be 20 minutes or?
You say not to exceed, I just leave it
Yeah,
at 30.
you say not to
Yeah,
exceed
30.
30, okay.
30, 30. Gotcha.
We're
Back to
back.
where we started.
No, it wasn't 30-30, it was 45-30.
Oh, was it?
That's what they were saying.
Well, after discussion,
Yeah.
we're back. to where we
45
were.
minutes for the presentation, up to 30 minutes for question answer.
Yeah, sounds
Hour
good.
and a quarter.
All right, 30 it is.
Actually, on our RFP, or the RFQ for architects, it's 40-20. is what we said.
No, the
Better.
architects are coming in for,
Yeah, but we changed that.
Yeah.
For the art. When we invited them.
yeah,
Which
so
I
they're-
think originally.
they've got
less.
60-30 for the architects.
Right.
I think we're splitting hairs here, though. Like you said, this is gonna be dry. 30-30 should be.
Okay.
All right, whatever you want.
Yeah, we can change it in the RFP if we really wanted to.
Yeah, 30-30 then.
Okay, 30-30. And then I just want people to review section 8, which is the timeline of the RFQ process.
And Jeff and I did go through this and put it into the calendar so that we don't get hit with doing owner's rep interviews at the same time. But they come pretty close. It was about as fast as we could run this process without bumping into one another. But it gets it done by the end of April, which means we'd be going to the town council in May. If you recall, Jeff D'Onofrio was pretty adamant about getting somebody in as early as possible for pricing purposes.
You're saying this is as early as possible based on what we have on the calendar, right? They can tweak this since last.
Yeah, well, we backed it up so that we were releasing it on the 27th. And remember, I had thrown some numbers out there last time that took us into late May.
Yeah.
So just backed it up, getting it out this Monday and then getting it through as quickly as we could. And making a decision by the end of April. So we essentially cut a month off of the timeline we were talking about last time.
So yeah, we're not gonna get much better than what we had on there unless we double up on a lot of stuff. Which
It's
doesn't make
tight,
sense.
and remember, we're doing the owner's rep in between there, so, you can't push it back much more, or you're gonna be, having double booklets to look at and all that sort of, I don't wanna burn the whole committee out in the process.
I'm good with that timeline.
Hmm?
I like the timeline.
Timeline looks okay, Jeff.
All right, the next item that's highlighted, I added page numbers on the footer. It's page 16. At the very top of page 16, it talks about money and securities, broad form,
Yep.
limit each occurrence over primary, and then there's a dollar amount that I don't know what to do with that.
Not sure what
Let's
this
see,
is.
I have no
attorney
idea.
questions.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I guess that's something we need to ask the attorney.
Yeah, I could ask Jeff on that tomorrow
Yeah.
morning, or email him tonight.
We don't have any idea.
Okay, so I'll email him tonight on that. Then the next item, I think, is what Chris was asking about the prevailing wages. That's on page 21, at the top of page 21.
Yeah, we talked about that. It was really, Chris is okay with the prevailing wage. It's the PLA, that labor agreement that is the concern.
Okay,
You know, because the prevailing wage, that is, it's statute, so.
alright. So then you've got time of completion and liquidated damages.
Yeah.
That was my question, whether or not we're doing that. And I saw the box wasn't checked. I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah,
I like liquidated damages. If they don't get it on time.
I'm surprised this isn't an RFQ and not later in the contract. Is that typical?
It says there that it's part of the statute. Connecticut Department of Admin Services.
if I'm already asking Jeff, do you want me to just ask him on this too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have, this next piece, questions, and information that's on page 22. I'm assuming that's gonna be like me, Rich, and Finn still.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think that's stated on the first page too.
No one else is volunteering, Jeff, so.
Well, and to be honest, I'm getting the emails on these, but Jeff and Vin have really, and to some extent Sean, really dealt with them. I haven't.
Yeah.
Well, this had this
As they
question,
come
and
through, but
I don't know what this is, this next question, like what is SSIC? I don't know if you guys know that.
I don't think that has anything to do with it.
no, you got
No.
some very talented people around the table, and they all have
Yeah.
puzzled looks on their face.
Did anyone ask Google?
That's
Yeah, I just
nice.
Googled it now, Standard Subject Identification Codes Manual,
Oh, there you go.
Secretary of the Navy.
Yeah, it seemed all built to regular sense.
Apparently, New Norton will be seaworthy. Yeah, so I don't know what that is either,
That's why I asked, it came back, no.
but I know it's an applicable code, so we know that. I can ask Jeff what that is too, let me highlight it.
School security.
I mean, if it's boilerplate,
Could
it's
be.
fine. It was more, like, what is this? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
It could be the new school security standards.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
And I don't think there are any other yellow items, there are not.
All right.
So we get the clarification on those items, and I guess if the motion indicates that upon Attorney D'Onofrio's guidance, these things are completed, then we can issue it tomorrow.
That'll be the
Monday,
it's
actually, we're
Monday,
gonna
yeah.
issue it, yeah.
Monday, yeah.
Yep.
Alright.
Do we have a
Well,
motion?
We have to get it to the newspaper tomorrow, basically.
Yeah, a motion to release the RFQ for
It's the
CM
School
pending-
Safety Infrastructure Council.
Good job, Dennis.
pending revisions from Dr. Solon in version.
Okay.
The
Did you
motion?
get the motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, second?
Second.
You got the motion, Ron?
Yes, with the guidance of the attorney. that we-
Right.
that we-
Okay.
right.
Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, very good. And we're gonna hold off on the owner's rep RFP until our next meeting.
That's in the document now, that's in the folder.
We're just not doing it now.
We may need to have you do a little lesson with us on Google Docs and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
apologize, that was my fault, I had the old one in there and not the updated one, I've been trying to take out the old stuff.
Yeah, but some of it too, Jeff, is just the fact that I think the schools use Google Docs extensively, so you're quite comfortable finding files and moving them around and all that sort of thing.
Right.
We have people here, including myself, who are
But I'm
getting lost and not finding things, and it comes up, depending on how you access it, it comes up looking different. So anyway, so we just need to, if we're gonna continue to put stuff in there, the committee has asked that when we do the agenda, that we put a link on there each time, so that they can just click on the link and it'll take them to the documents that we're doing. So that will simplify
Yeah,
things
that's easy
somewhat.
enough, a linked agenda, that's easy.
That'll help out. Right now, we spent a fair amount of time today looking around trying to find things. And
Yeah,
my confusion as much as anything else.
yeah, I could probably at least link it to the folder on the agenda, because sometimes, like, I don't have all the revisions done before the agenda goes out, you know?
Right.
But I could definitely, at least
Yeah.
get you there.
Yeah, and the other thing that Vince suggested is putting a folder that just, within the agenda folder, you just have for each date, and you have not only the agenda, but any of the backups for that, that are in that folder. So you can go to a single
Yeah.
folder and you can find everything you need.
Maybe I could do that through making copies.
But I know a lot of times I don't have access to some documents, or don't have editing access. I don't know.
You
if
don't
other-
have editing access, you'll have access to you can see it, and part of the reason we keep it this way is that if you go to our website and you click on school modernization, it's ultra transparent. The link takes you directly to all these folders, and you can, anybody in the community can know what's going on at any point by clicking those links. But I certainly appreciate that I have a different familiarity than many of you do, so we can work on trying to make it a little more user friendly through the agenda piece, but but also just showing you.
Yeah, because I mean, it's nice that, you know, everybody can access it. You can
Yeah.
see the changes as they're taking place. You know, there's some real positives to using Google versus, you know, Microsoft or something like that, or just doing things through email. But we just need to be able to get in and out of things. And it may be that, you know, once we get beyond this stage, we won't have as many of these things that we're dealing with too.
Yeah, I would doubt it.
You're not gonna be editing docs, you're gonna be getting reports,
Right.
invoices to approve, minutes from prior meetings, so it'll be a lot easier to
So
just
we
have
just do those
a
as
folder per
attachments.
meeting.
Right.
Okay.
With that, any other issues? I have on here communication subcommittee. We have not done anything on the communication subcommittee at this point. We've got a lot going on, but I played around a little bit more with a Facebook page, but that's about as far as it's gone.
Have you seen the people are reviewing it?
Very few.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
we really haven't advertised it at all. You know, once I feel comfortable with it, you know, so I'll start throwing things on the community forum or the educational forum. And we did that with the school modernization.
and it was really effective.
400 to 600 people who ended up as followers. I think we may have one right now.
It's me.
No, is that you? Okay. Well, there it
I'm your
is.
follower.
It's still exciting. People are finding
Start
the page.
somewhere.
But we're just starting off, and to be honest with you, there's not a lot that I would put on there
I
right
know.
now. I mean, what we're
Although-
doing, you know,
I did look up the school building committee's website for one of the references, and they did a really great job with the updates. So I thought when we're at a quieter time, just sharing that as maybe something we could take some ideas from.
that's good. And I think, you know, once we get beyond this, you know, after the end of April,
Mhm.
we'll have a time hopefully where we've got some staff in and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which also reminds me, as we get more staff in, we may need to move our facility. Jeff Solon and I have talked about starting to do meetings up at the central office, because we're gonna have more people around this table and it may start, you know, getting too much, but we'll deal with that as we go further. And Chris has also asked me just to put a new issues or new business on each agenda in case there's some issue or question that people have that they want to bring up. So I'll add those to future agendas too. With that said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Any seconded? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff.
We will see you all.